Did you know that one herd of Ice Age giants could change what plants grew in a region, even if no human ever hunted them? When we talk about the Ice Age, most people focus on the drama of hunts and extinctions. But the bigger story is the ecosystem that made those hunts possible in the first place. Because giant animals did not just live in ancient habitats, they helped set the rules those habitats followed every day. An Ice Age ecosystem was not one frozen, empty scene that looked the same everywhere. Because conditions changed by region and by season, and animals had to respond to shifting snow, shifting plants, and shifting water. In many northern areas, there were wide open grasslands and steppe-like environments where wind was strong and trees were limited. And those places could support large herds because grasses and hardy plants regrow when they are grazed in the right way. So why did those open habitats stay open for so long, instead of turning into thicker forest? And what kept them productive enough to feed so many large bodies? One part of the answer is that giants shaped plants through constant pressure, because large grazers and browsers remove growth, break stems, and force plants to regrow again and again. When animals like mammoths and bison feed across a landscape, they can reduce young tree growth and keep shrubs from taking over, and that helps maintain open ground where grasses dominate. This matters because grasslands can store a lot of energy in roots and can bounce back after grazing, and a productive grassland can feed herds while also supporting smaller animals that live in the same space. If the giants disappear, what happens to that balance, and does the plant community change quickly or slowly? Giants also moved nutrients in a way that smaller animals cannot match, because they eat huge amounts in one place and release nutrients in another place through dung and urine. That sounds simple, but it has big consequences, because nutrients are not evenly distributed in nature, and fertile patches can create better plant growth that attracts more herbivores, which then supports more predators, and the whole system becomes more productive. When a herd travels across a wide range, it carries fertility from one area into another area, and that can make habitats more connected than they look from a distance. Have you ever wondered how a landscape stays rich when winter limits plant growth for long stretches of the year? Their feet mattered too, because trampling changes the ground in ways that affect water and seeds. Heavy animals can break crusted snow, press seeds into soil, and disturb the surface enough to create small patches where new plants can take hold. And that disturbance can keep grasses younger and more nutritious in places where dead plant buildup would otherwise slow new growth. If you remove millions of heavy steps from an ecosystem, what changes first? The plants above ground or the soil processes below? Giants also helped plants spread, and this is easy to miss because it happens quietly. Seeds can travel when they pass through an animal and end up in dung. And dung is not just waste. It is fertilizer and moisture in one package, which gives a seed a better chance to sprout. Seeds can also travel in fur or get carried in mud stuck to feet, and when herds move seasonally, they can move plant genetics across long distances. In a changing climate, that movement matters because it helps plant communities track the conditions they need. If you remove the animals that do most of the long-distance travel, do plants become more trapped in place than they were before? The movement of giants also created patterns on the ground that other species used. Repeated trails can become easier travel routes for smaller animals, and disturbed patches can create a mix of fresh growth and older growth that supports different diets and different hiding needs. Even simple behaviors like stopping in the same sheltered spots can create heavily used areas that concentrate nutrients and attract other herbivores later. This is one reason ecosystems with large animals often have a landscape with many different patches rather than one uniform field. When you look at an ancient steppe, are you seeing a simple grassland, or are you seeing the long-term effects of countless decisions made by herds over many seasons? Cold season behavior mattered too, because winter changes access to food, and some giants could physically alter snow cover while searching for plants. When a large animal digs through snow to reach vegetation, it can expose food that other animals then use, and it can create paths that reduce energy costs for smaller herbivores trying to survive the same winter. That means one giant can indirectly support other species just by feeding itself. So when you picture an Ice Age herd, do you also picture the smaller animals that might be following the same paths to save energy? Giants also mattered when they died, because carcasses are major events in a food-limited environment. A single large carcass can feed many animals over time, and it can enrich the ground later, which can create a patch of stronger plant growth that attracts herbivores again. Predator populations are tied to these large, concentrated food sources, not only because predators need prey, but because scavenging can reduce the energy wasted in the system. If a landscape loses its giants, what happens to the scavengers and the predators that relied on those large meals? Predators also shaped how giants influence the habitat, because fear changes movement. Large herbivores do not feed and rest randomly, because they avoid risky areas, and they cluster differently when predators are nearby, and that shifts grazing pressure across the landscape. When predators are present, herds may spend less time in exposed zones, and that can allow plants to recover in some places while being grazed harder in others. This creates a pattern of vegetation that is partly driven by behavior, not just by climate. So when people say the Ice Age was controlled only by cold, why do they forget that animals also controlled where plants could grow? Humans became part of this system too, because humans hunted some giants while also relying on landscapes shaped by giants. Herds provided predictable resources that influenced where humans traveled and when they moved. And human hunting could change herd sizes and movement patterns, which then fed back into plant communities. This does not mean humans alone controlled the ecosystem, but it does mean the system had an additional pressure that could shift outcomes. Do you think the ecosystem changed more through direct hunting, or through the slower ripple effects of changing herd behavior? This is where the end of the Ice Age becomes a major ecological turning point, because climates warmed in many regions and habitats shifted. And at the same time, many megafauna populations declined and disappeared. When large grazers vanish, open grasslands can change, and shrubs and trees can expand in places where they were previously kept in check, and that can alter the food base for many other animals. The loss of disturbance can change soil structure and plant turnover, and predators that specialized on large prey can decline. The result is not just fewer big animals, but a different ecosystem with different rules. If you could rewind time and remove the giants from a healthy Ice Age steppe, how many decades would it take before you noticed the difference? When people say the giants were just background characters in Ice Age history, they miss the main point, because these animals were central to how ancient habitats worked. They kept certain landscapes open and productive. They moved nutrients across huge distances. They shaped travel routes and feeding zones for other species, and they supported the wider food web when they died. Their presence influenced where predators hunted and where herbivores felt safe, and those patterns shaped plants in return. That is why Ice Age ecosystems were not only about temperature, but also about the daily movement of animals that weighed several tons. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, subscribe for more history that explains ancient life in simple terms, and share it with someone who loves prehistoric animals. Now tell me this, do you think the most important role of the giants was keeping grasslands open, moving nutrients across the land, or shaping how other animals traveled? And which of those roles should we break down in the next video?